These games that are floating by my head right now are all games that you should only play once. One time, that's it. You only have one shot. Because there are some games that we play, you get done with after a little while. And so all of these were submitted by my patrons, and we are going to figure out the best game to play once. One time, that's it. Now, once can be extended to one play session, one stretched out campaign. These aren't necessarily campaign games, though. They are games in which sort of are scenario-based, puzzle-based, when once you know the thing, there's no going back to play these games again. Or there were a couple in there of out-of-print games which made the list, a bunch of different characteristics, all comprised this month's Deathmatch, which we're going to get into right now. Only one of these games will become the winner, and make your predictions down below. And I will warn you, I did have to leave halfway through this Deathmatch, so there probably will be some shenanigans, which you probably won't understand, but my patrons will, and they're the ones who paid for this video. So you get to sit on the outside and laugh at all of our inside jokes. And if you want to support the channel for like a couple bucks a month and understand what all these inside jokes are, well, you can. There's a link down below in the description. But again, no pressure. These are all good games. We're going to talk about these games as a solid list of potential one-shot games. Games that you can play once and then pass on to a friend. The key being passing on to a friend as well, so that we aren't generating excess waste. They're not necessarily legacy games, which change. These are games where you can reset completely, green legacy, if you will, and pass on to a friend. So first off, in our first matchup, we have adventure games, The Dungeon, or just the adventure games category to begin with, taking on Detective City of Angels. So I've played adventure games before. There's a ton of them. If you look at Cosmos and you look in their games, well, they've a ton of games anyway, but there's a whole adventure game series, right? The Grand Hotel Abaddon, all of these different sorts of things, where you will go through each one of these games will have 3 chapters or something, and you'll go through a set story. I played one where we had to delve into a secret underground base. Which one was that? Monochrome Inc. That's the one I played. There was an evil society that was trying to take over the world, and we had to break into the Monochrome Inc., the biotech company, and fight it off. A lot of this has to do with, in similar escape game style, you'll go to a spot, you'll have a certain card. If you don't have a certain card, you don't get to progress any further, but it's very freeform. It says, unlike the cooperative exit games, this series focuses on telling and discovering the story with no time pressure. So you can really do whatever you want. You just kind of flip cards over, you explore the scenario, you explore the story. There's a rough outline in terms of who you are, and you have standees and you're in different spots, but it really doesn't matter. And there's no real penalty for doing anything incorrectly either. I mean, I found myself to be pretty underwhelmed by the play, and I think we stopped halfway through and I wasn't really interested. Conversely, I am quite interested in Detective City of Angels. I haven't played it, but one of the key elements to Detective City of Angels is that one of you is going to play the Chisel. So the Chisel is the evil villain of the series. The Chisel will be the one who is maybe controlling people. You see that everybody gets on the detective gets a detective handbook, and the Chisel gets the Chisel handbook, and can decide how people respond to things. You can also play this cooperatively. You can also play this solo, so you don't need to have somebody to withhold that information, but there will be a withholding information element here, and you're choosing how you investigate the witnesses and investigate the crime that has been going on. Naturally, once you know the thing and once you know what people are hiding, it's not really that replayable, right? The theme of this month is not really that replayable. But yeah, I've heard really good things about Detective. Detective is really solid in the rankings right now on Board Game Geek. It's still ranked number 633, but it definitely works as not really a replayable experience, which is important to know because I thought it was kind of replayable, and it feels like a pick where you can pick it up, you can play through it, you can enjoy it, you can introduce it to people, and then you can pass it on to somebody, which I really love. And so I think it's Detective that's going to win here. Yeah, it's Detective that smashes the vote. Hardly anybody had nice things to say about the adventure games. I mean, they've made a ton of them, so it's potential that they have a market that I'm not aware of. Sound off in the comments if you like the adventure games, but for me, it's kind of a hard stay away from these because they kind of just suck. And any escape room is better if you want something to actually puzzle out, or you want a game. You know, a lot of people say, oh, it's not really a game, it's an experience. I think that would fall would classify adventure games, whereas Detective is that game and will give you that game sensation. So it's Detective that moves on into 22-3 vote. Next up, we've got Time Stories to talk about, taking on Potion Explosion. Now, we'll talk about Time Stories in a second, but Potion Explosion is one of these outliers that I threw into the competition that was suggested by a patron, and I understand why it's thrown in there. This is a very light game where you are trying to collect the correct combination of marbles, and it's one of those games which you could play easily and then give to your friend, right? The idea of playing a game and then passing it on doesn't necessarily have to be limited to one-shot games, but it could be a game where you take it, you play it, you go, that was nice, and then you pass it to somebody else down the line, and maybe it makes its way back to you, right? I think that's what a lot of people were thinking when they put forward Potion Explosion. I think it's going to probably lose to the concept, the overarching concept of, yes, these games are inherently not replayable, and so that is the reason why we pass it on. I think we are showing that we're greedy board gamers out there, and we would rather pass on something that we can't get any more use out of versus like Potion Explosion. We'd be like, yeah, I still want to play it. So Time Stories is a game, they call it a game of Dexploration. At the beginning of the game, players will be at their home base and you'll receive a mission briefing, and then the object of the game is to complete that mission in as few attempts as possible. The thing is, you don't know where the things are that you need to complete the mission. And so over the course of multiple runs, it's kind of like the anima system in Assassin's Creed, except you get to reset at the beginning once you learn different things. You'll go out and you'll go down a dark path and you'll see, oh, that's where the globe of destiny is. It's at the end of this dark path. At the end of the dark path, there's also an ogre, and the ogre is going to kill you. So you need to go around the other way around the dark path. And so then you'd reset and go the other way around a dark path. That's the feel of the game, right? Figuring out what is there, what isn't, and trying to complete the objective in as few runs as possible. And so naturally, you're going to know the gimmick, you're going to know the thing, and that's why there are so many expansions for Time Stories, because they give you different scenarios, different things to explore, all while interacting with that core system. And so there was a good discussion here. People did throw some votes towards Potion Explosion, just because it's fun for the moment. You know, it's one of those games where it's a momentary enjoyment if you've played a lot of games, and so you can enjoy that fun a bit and then pass it on, right? Versus if you don't enjoy interacting with the Time Story system, that's what a lot of people were voting for as well. They're like, listen, we didn't really enjoy the Time Story system as much. I say a lot of people, there's 5 total votes, because people were saying Potion Explosion is a fun way to start a game session, you know? Some people's issue with Time Stories is that unlike a roguelike game or an idea where you can just go back and you can relearn things, you can learn how to do the game and then move forward, Time Stories combines a timer with skill checks. So unlike a rogue game where you generally get better and can make it further, your play of Time Stories might be wasted simply due to bad rolls. And so that, I think, is a legitimate concern and a great critique. That Vault Boy was saying, need to sneak past a guard? Roll the skill check. You failed? Your turn is wasted. You need to find an alternate route. Tick down time. The game needed that feeling of getting better. You successfully snuck past the guard, so here's a token that guarantees it next time. I think that all makes a lot of sense. And so people voted to get rid of both of these games. People voted, listen, we're not happy with Time Stories. We're not happy with Potion Explosion, but it is Time Stories that got the majority of the votes and moved forward in a 15-9 vote. 9 votes to burn it all to the ground, and then 6 votes for Potion Explosion. Moving on, we've got Spire's End versus Blood on the Clocktower. Now, Spire's End is another game where you are going through a deck. You have a solo deck of cards. It's a solo game, and you will have your characters, and you will go through and make different choices. It's essentially like a choose-your-own-adventure story with a little bit of combat in between. But you'll see the size of the game. It is all contained within that one deck, and it's a very linear style game. As you work your way through, you'll figure out the story, you'll do some fights by rolling some dice, a simple rolling and fight check, and then you'll move on. So I think definitely a candidate for once, not really that replayable, a solo journey that you can go on. I've never been really that interested in Spire's End. I thought it looked kind of bad. Then again, I'm not a solo player, so I tend to not trust my opinion on solo games that much, especially solo only games, because I don't play it. You know, I don't find the enjoyment that many people do, and I don't want to poo-poo a game that I just am not the target audience for. I do think that Blood on the Clocktower is a great addition to this bracket. I personally think it's an awesome addition to this bracket. Now, Blood on the Clocktower is number 83 on Board Game Geek. It is a huge social deduction game, which is essentially Mafia or Werewolf. The main twist here being that everybody's going to have a role, and the storyteller, the narrator, can potentially lie to the people around the table, depending upon what's going on in the game. There are certain effects that may or may not happen, which gives the storyteller leeway to balance the game as it goes on. The other twist here is that when you're eliminated, you're not out of the game. So there's no player elimination, which is great. I love that in a social deduction game, a huge improvement from Werewolf or Mafia, because you get to keep playing, but you only get one last vote. You get one last vote to play to make sure you're voting for the person who you want out, who will win you the game. And so it keeps the game progressing and keeps the game going down to like the final three, because there are still all those town ghosts who, if they saved their vote, could vote out the imp or the big bad and win the game. And so I like that potential, but I also think it's so expensive. Like, the price point on this is nuts compared to any other social deduction game. And so the idea of just playing it once and seeing what the game has to offer and then passing it on is not a bad thing, especially if you all go in on spending money on this big thing and then pass it along to your friends so they can all experience it. You all develop a language of it together. You don't really need many copies to play it. You need one, and you need one storyteller who's going to run it. And so I can really see the argument of just playing this once to experience this, because I think Blood on the Clocktower, more than any other game out there, has taken the board gaming world by a cult-like following. Maybe there are some campaign games out there which also have this cult-like following, or just chip theory games, but I don't think many other games have that cult-like following. Kingdom Death Monster, let's say, where when you get into it, you get really into it and you get really obsessed with it. And I think anything that has the potential to do that is worthwhile playing once. I'm really happy that I've played Blood on the Clocktower. I've played it a few times now. Yeah, I played it a couple times at Niagara Board Game Weekend. I played it once when I was at Origins. I haven't played it for eons. It would be very easy to play. I've watched a few things on YouTube. I think it's a very fun thing to watch. Honestly, it's something that like boosts your channel up. So I've contemplated just getting it to have stuff on room and board, but I would rather film an Avalon game, because I think it would provide the same appeal in terms of that lying and social deduction, or film a Mafia game recreation like the one that I was in. We played an online sort of werewolf mafia game, text-based, in our Discord recently, and it was very, very fun. And it's the first time I've ever played in one, because I get so friggin' obsessed with it, and I knew I had to wait for a very specific moment in my schedule that I had the time to devote to it, because I knew it would consume me, and it did. And so I was very glad when it ended, because I was like, oh, what happened to my October? Right, I was thinking about Mafia. Yeah, some people saying about Blood on the Clocktower, the idea that you do spend so much of the time with your eyes closed is boring. The idea that, oh, you're winning? Well, screw you. I'm going to now change things to make it harder for you to win. People don't like that as well. And if you're looking for a long social deduction game, we'll just play any social deduction game with me. Because in person or in text, I'm going to talk. So a lot of the conversation ended up being that I think Spire's End kind of wins here in a little bit of a default, because people were saying, no, it doesn't, we're streamlining the theme as we do our votes. And people decided that Blood on the Clocktower is eliminated from the competition because you would play it more than once because of that cult-like following. But I agree. I think it was a great choice for this bracket. So we're moving on to something not on the board gaming site, but on the RPG item, which is Alice is Missing, which is taking on something that I'd never heard of, which I think sounds really cool, and is maybe my favorite, one of my two favorites of me learning about them through the suggestions from my patrons, is Dungeons & Dragons, Bedlam, and Neverwinter. So Alice is Missing is probably something that you've heard of because of Shut Up and Sit Down. Shut Up and Sit Down had a big review on Alice is Missing, and then I think it blew up. The concept here is that this is a silent role-playing game about Alice, a missing high school student. And so essentially what you do is you sit around in a circle and you text each other. And there are prompts and things that the game will drive itself, and there is a game here. You're trying to find out what happened to Alice but you were sitting there, you were texting, and it's sort of meant to emulate the idea of social media, right? And the idea of connection, the idea of not being able to speak to each other. So everything is going to be created in this document that you're all engaged with and texting with, and will play out as a pretty neat and unique experience. I think it does seem like a unique experience, but obviously when you figure out what happened to Alice, it probably won't hit the same. Presumably, Alice is murdered, right? Hauntingly beautiful, deeply personal, and highly innovative, Alice is Missing puts a strong focus on the emotional engagement between players, immersing them in a tense, dramatic mystery that unfolds organically through the text messages they send to one another. Right at home with games like Life is Strange, Gone Home, Oxenfree, and Firewatch, it's designed as much to feel like an event-style experience as it does a role-playing game. I think it sounds really neat, a really cool idea, and yeah, but it's up against something pretty hard. Dungeons & Dragons Bedlam and Neverwinter is sort of Dungeons & Dragons' take on a single-play D&D escape board game for 2 to 6 players. It's rated pretty well, 7.2. Not much replayability. Yeah, okay, sure. Nice story board game. Puzzles are a bit too simple. We'll consider any offer. Just get this out of my house. Really like the puzzles and just laughing at each other failing skill checks. Story itself was okay. We didn't exactly lean too hard in the role playing, so rating this more of a cooperative puzzle. So there's definitely some role playing aspects into it and some skill checks as well. And I think finding a blend of like D&D and skill checks and an escape room puzzle, that seems really neat to me. Both of these seem great. It was a pretty good vote against each other. Ultimately, it comes down to a 17-9 vote for Alice. But yeah, I think Dungeons & Dragons Bedlam and Neverwinter, what a name, right? Is one that I would look out for because, yeah, it seems like a fun one-time experience and fun to play in the Dungeons & Dragons sandbox. Okay, we're moving on to Mini Crimes. We have the Mini Crimes series taking on Shadows over Camelot. In every Mini Crimes, and they come in like boxes of 6, you will analyze a bunch of different clues. You'll have a deck of cards that you'll open up and you try to figure out the puzzle. There'll be a unique story that you have to go through for each one. You'll pull out the deck, 6 chapters for 6 compact boxes. Choose carefully and solve the mystery. It's like, oh, in this one, the drowned king, Italian chess champion MicroMacro is found dead in the bathtub of his hotel room in Berlin. It's Eva's match at the World Chess Championship. He's supposed to be facing against the Spaghetti brother, who never would kill a fly. Was it an accident or what happened? You just have to solve the clues, just like a little mini puzzle, and they come in boxes of 6. So I think that's interesting. I also thought it was interesting putting Shadows over Camelot here. So Shadows over Camelot is one of these games that when I first got into the board gaming hobby, it was revered. You know, it was revered as this out-of-print gem because it had a very limited print run and then it stopped being printed and then it was very expensive on the aftermarket and it was sort of put forward as this great hidden trader game. There were people who were against the Knights of Camelot. It was a semi-cooperative game, and I think people really liked that aspect of it. And then it got this sort of cult status because nobody ever played it because of its out-of-print status. And so I think that's an interesting concept of these out-of-print games as are they worth to play once and then pass on, right? I feel like a lot of out-of-print games, their prices go up because of the virtue of them being out of print, right? Just because they are hard to get, the FOMO increases, and it doesn't necessarily make it like a great game. So I wanted to throw this in here and see if it made it past the first round because of that, because I'd heard so much great stuff about it. And a lot of people were saying, yeah, it kind of feels dated now as a hidden trader game, you know, that before it might have seemed innovative in 2005, and now a lot of people have reimagined the genre because a lot of games have diminishing returns, right? This is why you will get that feeling of excitement if you play a new game. Regardless of what that new game is, you will be more interested in it than potentially down the line. And so I think a lot of what the hobby has devolved into is that potential cult of the new of play it once, it's amazing, play it second time, yeah, play it third time, meh, and then sort of passing it on. And recognizing that might be a thing that exists even with regular games, even with these out-of-print gems, I think is important to talk about. And so it was really close between these two, actually. It was 17-14 for these, and I think mainly because the Mini Crime series just seems fine. I think it seems better than the Adventure Game series, but only just. But even still, people decided that the one-time nature of these and passing them on feels better than just seeking out a game for its out-of-print status, just to try it, because you can get your hands on this a little bit easier. So it's Mini Crimes that moves forward in a 17-14 vote. Next up, we have MicroMacro Crime City 3 taking on the initiative. Both one-time games. We don't have to worry about classifying these things now. I think these are now added in since that game night playthrough on Board Game Geek TV, which is so clutch to have these things. They're so much more fun. They let you remember where things are on the map. I love playing with them. MicroMacro is Where's Waldo? That's it. It's Where's Waldo with a crime. There you'll see somebody who's been stabbed, and you'll say, who stabbed that person? And you'll look up the street, and you'll see them running towards them with a knife, and it'll be, where did they get that knife? And you'll see them purchasing a knife at the knife store. And it's like, why did they want to stab them? And you'll see them looking in the window and seeing them cheating with their wife, you know? And so then they chase them with a knife down the street and stab. That's how you play MicroMacro. You just find the image, you find the story mixed up in this big old jumble of story. That's MicroMacro. It's pretty fun. It's taking on the initiative Unravel the Secret of the Key, a game within a game set in the year 1994. This lets people take on the role of teenagers in 1994 who have found a mysterious board game called The Key. Not only will they play the key, but the players will help the teens through pivotal chapters in their lives by following a series of missions linked together via an interactive comic book. Game's campaign is broken into a number of chapters, each taking 30 to 60 minutes to complete, each starting with you reading a page of the comic book. The story advances even if players fail a mission, but winning may provide a reward in the future. So essentially you're going through this storybook trying to solve puzzles, but it's a scenario-based game that's pretending not to be a scenario-based game, right? You will reveal a little bit more of the story as you go through, and each scenario have to cooperatively decrypt a message. The key being, you figure out what the key is for that episode. To move around the board and collect clues, you have to play a higher valued card than the last card played for that act. 15 missions in the main game, 15 or so after. But after it's played through, you've seen the answers, you might as well pass it along. That was Hillary saying that in the Discord. It makes sense. But yeah, it seems like a really neat game, a fun puzzle game, and 15 scenarios feels decent. People were having fun with the humor of MicroMacro. MicroMacro can really be it's a funny thing. It's a dark humor game. Yeah, they're like, oh man, that's brutal. This guy was cheating on his wife. And so he just went to the knife store and murdered him. Like these absurd scenarios, definitely some funny things and zany things that are happening in MicroMacro. And I think because of potentially the ease of playing it, also maybe the price point, it moves forward in a 17 to 12 vote. Next up, we've got the Adventures of Robin Hood taking on Destinies. And Robin Hood is interesting. There's a lot of dexterity elements in Robin Hood. Your characters can move based upon varying lengths of wood. There's a flicking element to it as well. People are saying, I can get that people might find it a bit dull because there isn't a massive amount of variety, but it's feeling as you go through it and experience the story and experience the little challenges that happen, make it definitely a one-shot to consider. It's up against Destinies, which one of the only comments about Destinies was, this was more of a happy to get rid of game rather than happy to pass it on. Destinies, I don't know if we can call it a flop, but I don't think Lucky Duck is interested in expanding the system anymore. This was kind of Lucky Duck's follow-up to Chronicles of Crime, which we're going to talk about next. But to have this role-playing system with Destinies as you go around the map and talk to different people and get destiny points and explore a scenario and figure out what you need to do in that scenario. Destinies, I felt, was very overproduced because of the one-time nature of it. They tried to get a whole bunch of different boxes out in the system, and then they tried to get a thing going where you could create your own Destinies and upload it to a Destinies portal. I don't think that ever really took off. You're going to go to towns, you're going to flip over investigative tokens, I think, and try to figure out what's going on in that particular scenario. There's a way that the app can help manage all of that exploration, but then it's just like, it just feels like you're playing the app maybe a bit too much, or some of the feedback that I've heard about it. Yeah, this is a bad review, or like a not happy person. You're running around the map uncovering generic tokens, looking to complete your goal, and then go complete your destiny. However, Destiny is actually a whole other mini game at the end game where you absolutely don't have a clue what you're supposed to bring, what to do, and is complete nonsense. And that thing lasts several turns. Your opponents, who are behind, are also expected to keep playing. What actually happens is just all the others just pass, so it goes back to the person doing the Destiny step, as it's so weird it takes multiple turns. On that, the tokens are generic. You're constantly looking on the device. Would much be a better solo video game than a board game. Multiplayer part feels really tacked on. Man, go there, get this, bring it here, wash, rinse, repeat. Yeah. Personal likes: adventure, exploration, fantasy, dice rolling, map edition, role playing. Yeah, like you can see the vibe of it. I never got pulled into it that much. I remember when it was on Kickstarter, and I'm just glad it was more expensive than I wanted to pay, because I think I dodged a little bit of a bullet. And so did you, because Robin Hood is the one that moves on. The Adventures of Robin Hood is the one that moves on in a 13 to 11 vote. So it was very close. Actually, one of our closest votes so far, but it is Robin Hood that moves forward. Cosmos, killing it with the one-time games. But Lucky Duck might get back into the game because we have Chronicles of Crime, which I think is going to be a pretty big contender, taking on Honeybuzz. Honeybuzz is another out-of-print game that, I don't know, I wanted to play one time, and so I literally just put it in here so that people would talk about it. That's why I put it in. We know it's going to lose at this point because we've beat that horse to the death. So let's just talk about Chronicles of Crime. I don't think there's anything else to say. Chronicles of Crime was a game that I really, really enjoyed my first plays of. I think this is certainly a great pick for this category because this was one of the games that I really had diminishing returns with, that playing more of made me less interested in the system. I had a great time playing it for those first times though, and I really think it's a great game to pick up used, play through it once, see if you like it. I also think that Chronicles of Crime is a really good solo game because a lot of it is sort of scanning the cards and then reading text. And that only can take you so far on a board game night. But if you're doing it by yourself, you're like, okay, I'm going to go investigate Notting Hill. So you go to Notting Hill, you scan it, it's like, this person is there. And you pull the card out and they're sitting there. And you're like, okay, I'm going to talk to that person. So you scan the card. It's like, what do you want to say? So having this and having it all laid out in front of you as you pick up different things, as you look in the crime scene to see, oh, there's a knife on the ground or whatever, and scanning and adding it to the evidence board, I thought it was pretty cool. And then I had enough of the system, and I never need to play another Chronicles of Crime game again. But I do think it is worth playing one. They have some new ones coming out. I don't know. Maybe those will have a twist on the format. I don't think they will. But yeah, it's Chronicles of Crime that definitely moves forward. Honeybuzz didn't get enough support to be desperately needed. Again, hammering home that you don't need to spend through the nose for out-of-print board games. That's the point I really wanted to make here. Haha, you thought you'd get away from this video without there being a lesson in saving. You're wrong. Gotcha. Moving on, we've got Legacy of You taking on Flashback Lucy. So Legacy of You is a single solo campaign game that you're going to be playing over 7 sessions or so. Throughout these sessions, you're going to be building up the river, and there will be a number of defenses that you have to build up in this Garphill game of optimization and getting better and better. We'll probably talk about more why people like Legacy of You further on in this deathmatch, because unfortunately Flashback Lucy, which you haven't heard of, is going to be knocked out of the competition, but it's really close. It's 18 to 14, and I think it sounds awesome. I think it looks really cool as this one-shot genre. 4 scenarios to discover. It's a cooperative investigation game where you play the role of a young woman gifted with a strange power. You start with a single card showing what one character sees. Each person pictured has a corresponding point of view card that you can claim, and so you're looking at, it's like Rashomon, the board game, right? You're looking at the same story from a bunch of different perspectives. Or what was that other one? Like Rashomon is the OG, and then there was that one with Matthew Fox in it. Vantage Point. That was it. Like Vantage Point. You ever see Vantage Point? There are 8 people who see an assassination, and you watch the movie from all 8 different views. And spoiler alert, you watch it from the assassins near the end. Bet you couldn't see that coming. Yeah, so Flashback Lucy seems really cool, and I'm bummed that it was facing Legacy of You in the first round, or else maybe it would have gotten past it. But yeah, a really, really cool concept, but it is Legacy of You that moves forward in an 18 to 14 vote. But definitely Flashback Lucy, like I was saying with the D&D game, this is the other one where I was like, oh, cool, I'm so happy to learn about it, and hey, you've made it this far in the video, you get a little treat learning about it too. Next up, we have Unlock taking on The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era. Now, Unlock is going to win. Unlock may win this entire tournament. Let's be real. This tournament is designed for the Unlock games. I think the Unlock games are the pinnacle of play it once and pass it on to your friend, because you can reset these escape room games, whereas like the exit games, you can't. And so I think that makes the Unlock games a clear standout, because you get one, you play it, and then you swap them with someone else who has the other 3. You know, you get this big cycle of games swapping in and out, and get to play all the Unlock games. And the system's pretty fun too. I like the systems a lot. But I do get the push for Betrayal Scrolls, Betrayal of the Second Era. Betrayal Scrolls. You heard me. The Betrayal Scrolls. I get this push for playing it once. I really do. I think you shouldn't because it's too expensive. But I understand the concept of like playing this once and then passing it on, because I think it is an experience that some people will really gel with and other people will bounce off pretty hard. Well, we'll get to that later. You can go check out my review for Betrayal Scrolls, which I'm only going to call Betrayal Scrolls from now on. I get it. I get the justification here. The argument here is that once you've done one full pass through, you've seen a lot of what the game has to offer. 2 full pass throughs, you've seen every skill line and you never have to play them again. If your goal is to just play the skill lines. And I think it's decently valid. And so the concept of it having a huge high and then paling as it goes on, this is sort of the be all and end all. You know, you spend $225 and then you pass it on to a friend. But I think that's also what helps Unlock undoubtedly move forward. There's no way Unlock's going to lose the first round. Come on now. Even with people loving Betrayal of the Second Era. And plus, if you got them to vote for it, you have to have them admit that they're only going to play it once and put it back on a shelf, which nobody could ever do. That's why you got to leave it on the table so you can keep playing it. Yeah, Unlock moves forward. It's a very solid choice. Moves forward in 24-5 vote. But I get the justification for Betrayal of the Second Era for sure. We're moving on to Decktective versus Decorum. This is kind of a neat one. It's another escape room style game of a deck of cards, but this one has a 3D crime scene. You'll have to answer a bunch of points at the end of the game, and you have to play cards or discard cards depending upon what you think is going to be helpful. I played another one of these games too. What was it called? I mean, it's not in the Deathmatch. I should have added it. It was the Sherlock Files. The Sherlock Files, a similar style to Decktective, of these cards that you have to then answer questions about, going through a one-time mystery and then moving forward. And it was facing off against Decorum, which is a cooperative puzzle game. It's a scenario-based game, but people were arguing that once you'd seen all the scenarios, you might as well not play them. If you know the end of the scenarios, you know the goals that you're trying to achieve, you're going to remember what you're trying to achieve, and you can never play it again. Decorum is you're putting things in a house, and you have to respond with love it, hate it, or fine with it, and that's it. Limited communication. I've always thought it looks good because I like limited communication games, and people enjoy the logic puzzle of it all too, which is fun, especially a little logic puzzle. And then once you're done, you can pass it on because you've played it through, you've experienced the logic puzzle. You're not going to do the logic puzzle again. You kind of know how it works. And so Decorum moves forward. Not a lot of people sharing love for Decktective. I think it looked kind of interesting, but Decorum moves forward in 20-5 vote. Next up, we have another weird one. We have Molly House versus Selfish Zombie Edition. Molly House, I also think, I've played Molly House now, and I didn't really like my play. I like the people around the table. Don't worry, Copeland. I love you. Copeland, you're amazing. I was so joyous, and I was so happy to play this game. But some of the mechanisms didn't really gel for me. However, I do think that this is absolutely a game that everybody should play once, just because it's a wonderful game about queer representation in board gaming. I think that's really cool. I think I bounce off Whirligig games like no other. I really didn't like John Company either, and for similar reasons that I didn't like Molly House, in that there is this one thing that you all have to contribute towards, but it feels like the decision to contribute towards it is already sort of auto-decided for you, and so I don't really like that give and take in my games. But I really love the theme. The theme of Molly House is you have to get the most joy out of your life by going and living your best life and living your best self and having lots of parties and cruising and not getting caught by the cops and hung to death. Yeah, it's pretty dark. It took a turn. I think this is a great game to exist as an art piece in board gaming. I just wish it was more fun, really. I'll say the same thing when I covered in Crowdfunding Countdown. I desperately want this to be my favorite game of all time. Nothing would bring me more joy than to have a queer board game be the number one. I think that would be sick. So I think it's a good, valuable game to play maybe just once and then move on. I'm glad I played it, and I don't ever really want to play it again. So maybe it fits for the theme. Maybe it really fits for the theme. It's up against Selfish, which is Selfish Zombie Edition, but this is another series of games. Nobody really talked about Selfish, not even the people who put it forward. Selfish is just a game where you have to be selfish. Use your survival supplies to advance through the wasteland overrunning with undead. Nobody put forward a good argument, and so it's eliminated from the competition. We're just gonna move on. It's up again. Next up, we have Robinson Crusoe taking on Hegemony. Both of these I think are pretty good. I think Hegemony is probably going to win here. I would vote for Hegemony if I have a vote. Oh, and it seems like I do have a vote. Sometimes people give me their votes. I don't get to vote unless people give me their vote. But yeah, Robinson Crusoe, again, is a scenario-based game. You have these different scenarios of how to survive on the island. How far are you going to make it on the island? You have different people who can help you live on the island a little bit longer by doing things. I wanted to make a... People always ask me, like, if you were going to make a bird game, what would you be? I was like, I think I would make Robinson Crusoe. Like, this is before I had really heard of Robinson Crusoe, but I envisioned where you're all trapped on a desert island. But you don't have people like the cook or the soldier or whatever. You have people like an actor, people with no skills. And then how long do you last? You know, like people who have actively bad skills. I think that'd be a very funny theme. But that's about as far as I got. I don't ever want to design a game. Too much work. I know the work that it takes going into it. I just like to critique them. But yeah, Robinson Crusoe is known for being extremely tough co-op wise. So I think you'd probably want to play it a little bit more than once, but I understand that scenario-based thing. And then Hegemony, I think, is a really great pick. Hegemony is number 43 on Board Game Geek. That's insane, but it's not too insane because only people who can withstand this 4-hour teach are rating it. That's why it's up so high. People are like, I've invested all this time. I will play it more and more. And you'll play it once. You'll play it once. Hegemony is something that I would love to play once and maybe more than once. But no, I know I'll probably only have time to play it once. Hegemony is something that is so wildly asymmetric and so long as you're either the middle class, the poor class, the rich class, the government. But it also has a pretty robust solo mode that you can then maybe play it more than once because then you're only waiting on you. It's incredibly complicated and all the things sort of intermixed. You're getting points in different ways depending upon your class. I think it looks really cool. It's very well done if you're to believe the reviews. But I also understand people being like, yeah, I'd want to try it once, and then I never want to play it again. I think it's probably too much time investment to just play it once. If you spend all that time learning it and learning all the classes, you should play it at least 4 times. I don't know, but I know that it takes like 4 or 5 hours per play. It says 90 to 80 minutes. That's probably a lie. And so while Hegemony is close to getting the votes, the actual thing that gets the votes are to burn them both. They said burn both of these games. I think, yeah, the Flames win and consume both Hegemony and Robinson Crusoe because they both require additional depth, and you want to play them at least more than once. So they don't fit the theme, and they're both eliminated from the competition. And so finally, we have the Emerald Flame taking on my favorite part of these death matches, Bounce Off. Now, we're going to get to the Emerald Flame in a second, but let me tell you a little bit about Bounce Off. Because here's the thing. I think we're focusing a little bit too much on what game should be played once, as if it isn't replayable. And then passed on is the thing we should really be focusing on. Bounce Off should be passed on to every person you know. You should buy a copy of Bounce Off, play it once, break it in, break in that bounce, make sure it's up to the tip-top quality that you know Bounce Off is going to be, and then you should pass it on to literally the next person you meet, or the next person you see, friends, families, daughters, dogs, in-laws, churchgoers, pedestrians, fry cooks, second line cooks, salad mise en place cooks, really the entire waitstaff at the hotel or the restaurant that you're going to. Make sure that you've imbued your scent into it and then pass it on so that they know that a little bit of you will always be bouncing with them. And then it just makes them feel good, right? And then it just makes them feel good inside. And don't take my word for it. If we look, Bounce Off is sitting at 14,766, which is a pretty good rank. It's pretty good. I think we can get it a bit better because I think that people are saying really good things about Bounce Off, and it's been a very long time since I've checked these, and I very hope that there's more for me to look at. Like Dr. Penguin. Dr. Penguin, I knew you were a good egg, but now I see the truth. Let's read it. 10 out of 10. I was at a really horrible moment in my life. Addictions and family dysfunction had brought me to an all-time low. After losing my home and family, I found myself alone in a hotel room with no hope and no future. In that hotel, I found a King James Bible. It didn't really help me that much, but what I found beside that Bible changed my life forever. Bounce Off, you betcha. Bounce Off found me where I was, there, alone in my hotel room. It saw me. It understood me. It told me I was loved beyond all human comprehension. The eternal joy and hope of Bounce Off gave me the courage and strength to reconcile with my family and repair my broken soul. If you too ever feel broken, alone, lost, or helpless, just know that bounce off is always there for you, just waiting for you to accept it in your heart. Move over, King James. We got King Bounce Off in the house. That's beautiful, Dr. Penguin. And that is what I've been preaching. That is what I've been preaching all this time. And you know what, Yarum 82? You know it's not Yarum. You know it's not yummy. Yarum 82. To offset Room and Board and his anti-Concordia stance. Okay. This is why Board Game Geek ratings can't be trusted, okay? Because there are these clear haters out there detracting from the glory that board games can have on a person's life, the impact there. You Rum 82, you contrarian. Here, I thought that Arkansoni was my nemesis, but I think your Rum 82 is vying for that spot. You know what? I'll say it again. This is legitimate. This is actually quite legitimate. This isn't any hyperbole. I would rather play 27 games of Bounce Off before ever picking up a Concordia card, before one turn in Concordia. If they're like, hey, and this is, if they're like, hey, your house is on fire, you need to escape your house, but you need to play either one move of Concordia or 27 games of Bounce Off, I would let the fires consume me and play 27 games of Bounce Off. That is because I know I would be in pure joy in that moment, right? And so nothing else would matter rather than spending my last month. Who knows if I'm going to get out of the fire? Sure, it would be very quick and the fire was just starting and I could see that I had a very clear path and I just needed to play one turn in Concordia to get out of the fire. No, 27 games of Bounce Off, done, locked in. And then I'll walk out of the fire. I'll walk on the fire like Jesus walked on water. Thank you, Crimsonato, says the real Crimsonato, who is in Orillia, Ontario, not Toronto, Ontario. That's how you know that we're different. It says, this is not a Chris George Burner account. This is an honest review. I swear, I believe you, Crimsonato. I believe you. Cosmic Beat says, the pinnacle of efficient packaging. The way one of the balls replaces the O in Bounce is absolute perfection. Absolutely. If we're talking about art, you know, we just talked about the art deathmatch, right? We're talking about art here. These are the sorts of reviews that, again, if you haven't gone and given an honest 10 to Bounce Off and written your own review, what are you doing? How have you not? Come on. Did you see what Dr. Penguin did? Did you see that? Okay? Or you could be like Steve with a f, best during adult parties or obstacle course runs. Yes, best. So why are you giving it a 5, Steve with a f? They are best. Best means 10 out of 10, not 5. Those are my 2 favorite pastimes, adult parties or obstacle courses. Sometimes in the same night, if her husband comes home. Look at that O. Look at that O. Look at that O. Are you kidding me? Have you ever seen a better O in board gaming? In board game packaging, good for the environment, less cardboard on it, save the environment too. However, I do admit that while you should get a copy of Bounce Off and rub your scent on it and give it to every person you meet, you still should also be keeping your own copy. And because of that, because you're supposed to play it and pass it on and not have a copy anymore, Bounce Off is ejected from the competition. So maybe if there's enough people who give it a 10 and push it over that 10,000 bar, people, come on, are we a community or what? I've been saying this for months now. Who, there's at least 1,000 people. I see 1,000 views down there, generally. That's what these videos get. Not a lot, but a decent amount. There are 1,000 of us. Come on, be like be a Dr. Penguin, okay? Don't be like the Arkansonis and Yarum of this world. Yarum 82 years old, doesn't know. I gotta check if Arkansoni has changed their mind. Claypole certainly needs to. Dex Douglas. Oh, Arkansoni. Oh, Arkansoni. Oh, Arkansoni. My nemesis. Just go right Bounce Off a 10. Come on, do it. You know, have fun. Okay, let's get back to the deathmatch. There's been enough of a tangent, but a justified one. So we're going to take the Emerald Flame and we're going to put it up against the Light and the Mist. Both of these are done by the publisher Post Curious. So and both of these are extended escape rooms, let's call them. Extended puzzle games. Emerald Flame has 3 or 4 scenarios. Oh, a puzzle game told in 3 parts. And it will give you all of these physical elements, all these different puzzles to work on. yada yada. So will the Light in the Mist. Light in the Mist comes with a tarot deck where all the major arcana represent a puzzle as well. They started out with this one, and then they got a little bit more bold with Emerald Flame, and I wanted to see what people thought about these two things. So we had a couple people who have played through both, but one of the feedback from Definitely Not an Evil Pumpkin said that after playing through both, I'm giving my vote to Light in the Mist. It's so innovative and approachable, it can be passed on indefinitely as long as you replace a single component, which is just a piece of paper, essentially. It's very easy to replace. And don't write on one of the backpacks. So it's very easy to send this one on, whereas in the Emerald Flame, there was one where you had like this string, because I know that my neighbor and not friend Yuval was playing through it with a few people, and so I sat in on one of them. There's one where you have to like be writing things down on some mushrooms, and then also I find that more people want to try the Light in the Mist when I talk about it compared to Emerald Flame, which makes it easier to pass on to a friend as well. It's a little bit less oppressive because it's a bit easier, it's a smaller package, more palatable, and less of a time investment as well. As Emerald Flame has a lot going on, which is great if you're really interested in puzzles and that sort of thing. And so because of that passing on ability, and because this is so involved, it's going to be the Light in the Mist that moves forward in an 11-9 vote. So we're back to the start. We'd only have a few more to cover that we haven't talked about, so we'll be able to really run through the votes and what other people have chimed in on a little bit quicker, except, oh yeah, I forgot we're going to have some chaos in just a second. I forgot. Oh, I forgot about that. It's going to be a longer video. But yeah, next up we have Adrift taking on Detective City of Angels. Adrift is another post-curious game. People were saying that Adrift and Morrison Game Factory might be their two favorite post-curious games, as they're more resettable, much cheaper than the Emerald Flame and Threads of Fate, but have more gadgety stuff than Light of the Mist. So Adrift is in some ways a little bit simpler than some of the others, but it's not a bad thing. It's less reliant on the internet than Morrison Game Factory. Plus the components are really lovely for it. If you passed it on to all your friends and got it back in the end, there's some gorgeous velvet bags you could use for other things. Those velvet bags right there. And so it's very close. There's still a lot of support for Detective City of Angels, which I thought looked really cool, but it is Adrift that definitely moves forward in a solid push in a 12-11 vote. Very, very close, but it's Adrift that moves forward. Next up, we have Time Stories taking on Spire's End. Spire's End, again, relying on that choose your own adventure style game. You're just going to play through it once. You're going to get rid of it. Time Stories relying on you resetting things and then you getting more packs and more stories, more cases to solve. Although the hate for Time Stories is pretty strong with this. Time Stories needs to burn. Sharing that game is like sharing an STD. You have a good time doing it? Touche. So that was very funny, and also makes Spire's End grab the abacus, and Time Stories burns in a 16-15 vote. Next up, we have Alice is Missing taking on the Mini Crime series. I think Alice is Missing is going to demolish this one. Alice is Missing just demolishes Mini Crimes in a 20-3 vote. That was pretty predictable. Mini Crimes just skated by in the first round. I don't think it looks that good. I'm getting a bit tired, so I'm going to take a little bit of a break. But I'll have a substitute sub in and finish the rest of the deathmatch, so don't you worry.
Don't worry, I'll take it from here. It's me. It's better than the Whisperer. It's me, Spooky James. I'm in town. Then let me tell you. Every September, when the cold night moon shines across the desert land, Chris gets a little bit busy. And that's when I come in. That's when I take over. And listen. I know that in the past, I let some of the power go to my head, okay? And that's not going to happen this time. No, it could never happen this time. So listen, what's going to happen for these next votes? MicroMacro versus The Adventures of Robin Hood. You know, I want everyone to feel heard. So we're going to get rid of the voting system entirely, okay? We don't need to worry about that anymore because you have me, Spooky James, at the head of the table. Okay, and if you need me to pass the pepper, well, I got it right here. I'll slide it down the table, and it'll be really good. Table is covered in neoprene. Don't worry, I'll flick it right over to you if you say nice things about me. So here's the thing: I was getting a little bit sick of people voting for the games, and I thought, well, hey, the person who compliments me the most, well, that game will go through. Whatever game they love will go through. It's easy to play this game. All you have to do is give in. Just give in. Give in to the joy. Give in to the love. Say, ooh, my face is flushing because I'm so nervous around you. Ooh, you couldn't flush more than mine because of the literal hellfire that's tanned me. And so I'm waiting, just like Chris made that desperate plea. I want to hear what people say about me. I'm waiting. Yes. Who's going to say it? And so here's the thing, because Hillary gave me a nice compliment, I think it's time we put some things into perspective. So MicroMacro's out. Adventures of Robin Hood is out. But you know what's in? Perspectives. It's all nice for us to have perspective, just like Hillary wanted to shout out perspectives. A communication game where you deal out the cards, people can describe them to each other, but not show them to solve a mystery. Dutrey does the art for the first chapter. Who knows who does it for the other two, but it was Dutrey that does it. My voice is shifting all over the place, but we'll find him eventually. We'll find out who Spooky James is eventually, I'm sure. So it's perspectives that moves on into the next round. And because people were complaining the last vote that I didn't let them vote, I'm gonna let you vote, okay? Next up we've got Sanctum, Who Cares, versus Chronicles of Crime, what's probably gonna win anyway. Sanctum's like Diablo the board game, that's it. Why do you want to play it once? Who knows, who cares? Chronicles of Crime you can vote for, but you know what? I'll even let you vote for the Night Cage if you want. Some random Cthulhu game, Los Cthulhuadors, Elder Thing in the Wrestling Ring. Sure. What about the Star Trek Klingon Challenge board game, huh? You want to vote for that one? Why not throw in some Marvel Champions, huh? Play that once, then collect another pack and never revisit the pack you've ever collected ever again. Or why not throw Wonderland's War in the mix? Because Chris only ever played it once and then put it on his top 20. What about Bear Mountain Camping Adventure? A game that did the $1 pre-pledge, so people are undoubtedly only going to play it once, then realize they don't like it. What about a game about anime, you horny little weebs? Or a little Game of Thrones card game? Or don't even play ISS Vanguard, just go watch Zach play it. What about anything from BoardGameTables.com? Oh, sorry, All Play. What about my favorite game, Spicify? You know I've got a copy right here. Remember, it's me, Spooky James, doing this and not Chris. Maybe I should send Chris this copy. Ooh. Or what about Trogdor? Get Strongbad up in here, since I know you all love Strongbad more than you love me. Well, of course they do. Get out of here! There's no time for a cameo. I'm turning into some sort of Disney villain, I think. But that's okay. What about Voidfall? You want Voidfall? What about Fox in the Forest? What about Star Wars the deck building game? Who played that once? What about Labyrinth? You nostalgic mother... What about Diamant? Blood Rage Krampus? That one game I played when I was 7. Well, you know what? I'm not giving it to any of those. I'm gonna give it to Blood on the Clocktower. 1, because it has blood in it. 2, because I think it should have been in the competition. And 3, because you all were mean to me. Blood on the Clocktower is back in! By the order invested in me, by the power divested by me. That's the expression. No Night Cage for you, you trolls. It's the devil's time to shine. Wait, that would have been a perfect time for Sanctum to win, too, because there was a devil on the... Oh, dang it. Blood on the Clocktower kind of looks like me, so that's why I was moving forward. Well, that kind of tired me out. So we've got Legacy of You taking on the Unlock series. I feel like Unlock should win, but for some reason, Legacy of You wins in a 23-8 vote. However, I want to make sure that you all are being honored here. So in the next one, it's Decorum taking on Molly House. Also, there have been people in the comments saying, I love Lamp over and over. So I don't really know what that game is, but I'm going to put it in there. Lamp is also in the competition. What do you want to play once and move on? Lamp? Do you love Lamp? Is it Lamp that you love? You wanted Lamp in the game? So Lamp's in the game. Decorum's out. Molly House is out. And Lamp moves on in a 16-5 vote. Who's even voting anymore? We don't know. So next we have Light in the Mist taking on whatever you people want. Whatever you want. You don't seem to want what I give you. You don't seem to even care. But in true Reuben Board fashion, somebody put forward Bedroom Battle, where I don't think they even knew that this was really a game, but they put it forward as a joke, and then it does have a BGG listing on it, and Bedroom Battle is the one that ends up winning. It wins, it beats Light of the Mist
11 to 10. So Bedroom Battle moves forward, and I'm going to go on and go towards Adrift taking on Time Stories, but realistically, Time Stories isn't that good, and nobody really likes it. And wait a minute, I thought Adrift was already facing Time Stories. I think I might have gotten a little confused. So Adrift had won Time Stories previously. If we look into the match, and that's probably how the votes got. I'm getting a little confused here. That's it for me. I'm a little embarrassed I called the same vote again, but I'll oh man, this deathmatch thing is, it's hard. Listen here. It's hard running a YouTube channel. It's hard getting the same voice down for 20 to 30 minutes as you struggle through. It's difficult. And I have so much respect for Gris, who does it all. He juggles 3 jobs. He manages it because he loves you all. And I can't take away the only thing that gives him joy. Burning things. It's the one thing that unifies me and Chris. Otherwise, he's a saint, but that kleptomaniac part of him is a little bit of the devil in him, and that's okay. I don't really have a way to disappear here, because it wasn't really built into my programming. Don't spank me. Oh, okay, I'm back. What did I, okay. Yeah. Well, I guess we move on from here. Next up, we have Alice is Missing taking on Perspectives, I guess, because Perspectives took out the other 2. Alice is Missing was always going to destroy anything that was left and eliminated in the competition anyway. There was some chaos, there was some frivolity. We got out things that were mostly going to get gone. I think the biggest sacrifice there was Chronicles of Crime, which I think could have made a run, but nobody voted for it to go back in. We had a big vote. A big old vote where everybody could have voted to bring something back in. And as long as they didn't say anything bad about me, Chris George, the nicest lad in town who just likes to periodically burn things unless the fire department's listening, in which case, no, that's my brother, then your votes would count as normal, not for -10. If you said anything bad against me, you vote for -10. But I mean, that's just, we don't have to worry about that. That's just part of the voting process. That's how we get a reasonable voting process. If I've learned anything from watching the voting processes happening in recent times, it's if you don't like how the votes are, or if you say anything bad about the person who is controlling the votes, then your votes don't count. And that's the way it should be. That's the way a true democratic process should be. We've got Alice is Missing taking on Perspectives. Perspective seems neat in terms of that describing a card for a one-time thing, but it is Alice is Missing that is for sure going to destroy it and move forward. Also, at the same time, we had to have a double match of Blood on the Clocktower versus Legacy of You because of that timing of that extra vote. And Legacy of You, again, usurps Blood on the Clocktower in a pretty dominant showing. I'm glad that Blood on the Clocktower got back to make the point and emphasize the point, but it's eliminated out of the competition pretty clearly. Now here we do have an interesting one from the Fallout. We have Lamp taking on, nope, not the Light in the Mist, that was eliminated, taking on Bedroom Battle, which, which surprisingly, Lamp doesn't have this BGG page, but it is Lamp that does move forward in a 19-8 vote. So we have our final 4. We lost Adrift. We lost Spire's End because Spire's End seems bad. We lost Sanctum. Oh, we didn't lose Adrift. Oh, just chaos. Again, I told you it would get weird. So we have Adrift taking on Alice is Missing, and this is a legitimate matchup. This is the first semifinal match where I could see a pretty strong case for both. Adrift is sort of representing the last bastion of all those puzzles and those escape room games that we played with, and then Alice is Missing is that really unique experience, that silent role-playing game. We had an interesting conversation on can you play Alice is Missing remotely, but people were saying no, even though you don't say anything, it's best atmospherically to play it together. So I thought that was kind of cool. I think between the two, just because of the uniqueness of Alice is Missing, that really is going to push it forward for me. It's going to push it for the majority of people as well. Adrift seems really cool, and I think Adrift is maybe one of the pinnacle of that puzzle tale setting. And so if you're interested, you should check it out. I might get a copy of Adrift, honestly, to give to a friend who is really into puzzles. For opening night this summer, they made a really cool escape game, like little mini puzzles around the Brunswick house as a little opening night fun thing to do for me, so that was cool because they like designing games. So that would be a good gift for them. But it's Alice is Missing that really moves forward in a 17-8 vote, and it's going to take on one of these worthy competitors. We have Legacy of You taking on Lamp. See, I think for me, I'm a bit confused by the Lamp edition because I would think that you would want to use it more than once. So it would be hard. I know people love Lamp. I have heard people do love Lamp. Let me read through some of the comments here. I love Lamp. I love Lampy. We've come for your lake. We've come for your lake. Don't quite understand that one. And so it is a tough battle between Legacy of You and Lamp, and it is it's really surprising to me that the final matchup is actually going to be a real matchup, because Lamp is eliminated from the competition in a 16-10 vote. I see it's 16-13 now, but when it was called, it was 16-10, and it is Legacy of You that moves forward. So we have, astoundingly, a real matchup to finish us off. We have Alice is Missing taking on Legacy of You. Taking on Lamp as a write-in. And so we did have a little bit of a mix-up in the voting for these two games. People were voting for Alice is Missing and Legacy of You, but the voting poll was reversed, so some people were voting accidentally. And so we had to have a recount on this vote. And on the recount, it came down to a 9-8 vote, with a bunch of people voting still for Lamp. And so while it looked like Legacy of You might have been ahead, it is Alice is Missing that is declared the winner of this death match. The winner of the death match. People want this game to move forward, to be played once, and to be passed on. I think maybe the replayability of the campaign of Legacy of You, even though it's a short campaign, made it so that people would want to make it a little bit more than one and done, but it having a bit of a shelf life, I think, is important to note. But yeah, Alice is Missing is a really cool idea of this one-time experience that you can play with your board gaming friends, go on an RPG journey, and then pass it on and give it to somebody else. So I really think that's a neat way to finish. A nice way for us to all sit in silence. All hail our rightful victor. The best game that you can play once and pass on with your friend is Alice is Missing. Right now, it's the end of October. We've been going through an entire month of voting on the best board game deluxifications and accessories. That one will be out in time at some point in November, maybe in time for Christmas, to decide on what helpful items to get your board gaming friend who's a non-board that aren't just more board games. I have a list like that as well if you're interested in checking it out. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to participate in the voting and understand what all that madness was about in the middle, well, you can sign up for Patreon. It's a couple bucks a month. It really supports the channel and supports me, because I am the channel. It is me. I am the channel. I'm a series of tubes. I would like to make YouTube my only job, rather than having 3 jobs. And so it is through your support that I can make this one of my jobs. But yeah, if you can't afford to support the channel, that's completely okay as well. I will continue to create free content, essentially, for you. And you can say, Chris, you're not worth a penny. And I understand. Or like, I understand finances get tight as well, and you can't afford a couple bucks a month, and that's completely okay. But if you can, if you feel like supporting, if you watch the channel for a little bit and you want to support the channel or understand what's going on and join our patron-only Discord, well, you can do that as well. The links are down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'm excited for the next death match as well. But until then, until next time, I'm Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase, but I heard the real reason that you want to know a spoiler about Alice is Missing. You know where she ended up? I love Lamp.